module on quantitative calculus and math. So there'll be a series of modules under this category. Now it's very important is if you're going to be learning other modules, either it could be in economics, applied economics, or macroeconomics, the foundation of mathematics is going to be very important. And these modules are designed in a way that you are able to have enough knowledge to understand when we are talking about different macro models or any other modules which are going to be coming in. Now there will be series of them, and this will keep going as we go forward. There'll be a lot more modules coming in. So let's start with first is the functions. Now when we're defining about functions, what are we looking at? So function is nothing but, so when I write y is equal to fx, what I'm trying to say is y equals f of x. So if you're taking a module, so model when we say, and we have looked this before also. So let's say we are taking a model which is, so if this is the function and x is what we are going to be feeding into the model, the output which you're going to be getting it is f of x. So this is the input. So when we are talking about x, what are we talking about? It's the independent variable. Usually in macroeconomics, we talk this about exogenous variables, which is outside the model. And here when we are talking about y, which is the dependent variable. So y is the dependent variable. Now, when we talk about y as a dependent variable, we have seen those are the endogenous factors, which is basically the model, what the variable which the model is explaining. So now if you look at very clearly here, that x is a independent variable and y is a dependent variable. So any function which you're going to be taking in, y is going to be dependent on the input of x which are going to be fitting in. So let's take an example. Y is equal to x squared. So because we get a fair idea what is the meaning of domain and what is the meaning of range. Now we know y is a function of x squared. So y is dependent on the values of x. So x could take any value here. Let's say x takes a value of 0. At x is equal to 0, y is equal to 0. 0 square is 0. So whichever value we put, now let's put at x is equal to -2. So x can take any value from -infinity to infinity because the function is going to define it. So if you're going to be taking x is -2, we know it's x square. So -2 square is 4. Now any value we put, whether we put x is equal to 2, we again will get y is equal to 4. So whether you put a value of a negative value or a positive value, the answer would be the same thing. So ultimately the domain is what we define as the input values which are going to be, you can feed it into the function. Now range is what you get out of those values. So let's understand here. Now whatever value you put as negative, you are always going to be getting a positive value unless you put 0. At x is equal to 0, we've seen y is equal to 0. So if the domain is, which means I could put any value, it could be, I could put x as equal to 1000 or any value. Output, which is nothing but the range, is going to be from 0 to infinity, because any negative number when you're going to be squaring it will always be positive. Now this is a set of numbers from the domain. So which we say is, let's say if you take example, a set of values from domain. So let's say this is the domain, is the set of values. What these values are going to defining you through the function is the range. Now here we have used f of x. So we saw y is equal to fx. And for fx we have substituted x squared. So this function can be changed, and we'll keep on looking at more solutions to understand, to get a better meaning of what is the domain and the range. So y is equal to f of x. Now in this example we are going to be putting f of x is equal to x cube minus 1. So this is the function which you are looking at. Now an x cube of a negative number is a negative. Now x squared of minus 1 is 1. However, x cube of minus 1 is minus 1. We already have discussed a negative of a square root is not defined. So if we want to find out what should be the value of x as the domain, which could be domain set of numbers, we just equate x3 minus 1 to be greater or equal to 0, which gives at x equal to 1, what happens? If you put x is equal to 1, we know f of x equal to 0. So if x is equal to minus 1, which is why, let's say x is equal to 0, at x is equal to 0, we are trying to check f of x is equal to minus 1, which is not defined. So we get a set of domain numbers. So domain here set is nothing from, if you put, we have already seen x should be greater or equal to 1. So the domain here is 1 to infinity. And now in this function, let's take f of x equal to 11 minus x. Now in this example, we can equate it simply. What could be value of x, which for which the function is defined, we know, and what I've discussed is minus x has to be greater or equal to 0. This is another way of, you could say here 11 is greater or equal to x, or x is less than or equal to 11. So as long as x is less than or equal to 11, you have a positive value, which means the range of the domain range could be, you could put x as 0, you could put x as minus 2. The reason is, like any time you put equation as minus 2, minus and minus becomes positive. So we'll look at this equation, but what from here we know is the domain set is from infinity to 11. So at 11, when I put x is equal to 11, what happens? F of x is 11 minus 11 equal to 0. So 11, it's defined, we know. So this is the maximum which we can go. Let's say if I wanted to put x is equal to minus 12, x is equal to 12. Now let's, f of x is equal to 11 minus 12 is equal to, y equal to f of x is equal to 11 minus x. We have seen that the domain of the numbers which it can work is from minus infinity to 11. So let's say if I'm going to be putting x is equal to minus 2. So what is the new equation? Y is equal to f of x equal to 11 minus 2, which is nothing but under root of 11 plus 2 is equal to under root of 13. So just to give you a fair idea that how the range would work in. So let's take x is equal to minus 3200. So if you put the same value, so this is a good example. So now we know we can go to minus infinity to whatever value till 11 and we get a solution for the particular function. So when I'm taking minus x, this is the domain value, and when I'm looking at under root of 3211, this is the range. So slope is one of the most important concepts which you're going to be looking at. So when we look at the Cartesian, there are actually four planes. This is x and y axis. This is plane 1, this is plane 2, this is plane 3, and this is plane 4. Now this is why we are using it, because when specifically in macroeconomic terminals, you always keep coming on the concept of slope, and in order to understand the slope you need to understand how the points are mapped in a Cartesian system. Now we have seen this as plane 1, plane 2, plane 3, plane 4. Now let's say when we talk about, it's a two-dimensional plane, so this is a plane with x-axis and y-axis. This is minus x, this is minus y. So when we talk about, whenever we see points, we know that the Cartesian, the 2-point system is defined as x and y. X is the first part and y is the second. So this is x, this is y, right? They both are intersecting each other, and this is at 90 degrees, just to give you a fair idea. Now whenever we are going to be looking at a slope, it's basically going to be at an angle which is known as an inclination angle with the x-axis. Before we go to that, let's do some number mapping. So if you want to plot 2 and 3, where is going to, so x, this is x, this positive, this is negative, this is at point 0, and this is minus y. So 2 is the x-axis which you're taking, and y would be somewhere out here. So this is, we'll just look at a couple of examples so you get a better idea. Now we know this is the positive side and this is the negative side. So let's say if I want to plot minus 3 and 6, how do I do that? So now this signifies x-axis, so the negative part of x-axis goes here. So this is somewhere out here, minus 3. Y is 6, so this is the positive side of x-axis. So if I'm going to be marking, let's say this was of 3, this is 6. This is a very good example of minus 3 and 6. So this is where the point would be. Now let's take another example. We take 3 and minus 6. So now x is on the positive side, so this is 3, and we know y is negative. So when we go down, this is the time which we are going to be going down. So this is minus 6. So this is the point which we are talking about, 3 and minus 6. So just to give you how you're going to be plotting the graph along the planes. So we've seen the first plane. This is always known as the first plane because it's the most positive side. This is the second plane, this is the third plane, and this is the fourth plane. So when we talk about slope, we are talking about so when you're talking about rise and run, what is this? Basically nothing but change in y-axis, change in x-axis. So that's why it was very important for you to know what is positive, what is the x-axis and y-axis. So we know this is x-axis. So when we are calculating a slope, this is known as a positive slope. So when we are looking and we want to measure this slope is intersecting at this particular point. So this is nothing but the inclination, which is defined as phi. This is the angle of inclination, defines what is the angle of intersection between the points, defines what is the steepness of the slope. Now when we are looking at a slope for a line, let's understand, let's relook at another example. The slope of this particular equation line is nothing but change, and as we have seen in the y axis, and this is the change in the x axis. So basically you are looking at 2 points, which is how you're going to be calculating the slope. Now the change in y for these 2 points is, let's take this as y1 and let's take this as y2. So delta y is nothing but y2 minus y1, whereas when we see change in x, so delta x, this is known as the incremental value of x, which we use it, is x2 minus x1. So if you are going to be calculating the slope of the line, and I just need to get 2 points on the slope, and these 2 coordinates is through which I'll be calculating the slope of the line. Now x and y. So now we saw this is a positive slope, which is upward sloping, and this is a negative slope. So this is what is known as a positive slope, and this is known as a negative slope. Now when we look at a point slope equation, let's take any point. So y minus y1 is equal to m into x minus x1. So we just saw what was the point where m is nothing but the slope of the line, and we looked at, in the previous example, we looked at how it's going to calculate it. So we call this as a point slope equation. Let's look at slope now we have an equation known as 8x plus 10y is equal to 7. Now if you want to find what is the slope, what is the intercept, you will need to get the equation in terms of y. So this can be rewritten as 10y is equal to 7 minus 8x, nothing but minus 8x plus 7. So y is equal to minus 8 by 10x plus 7 by 10 minus 0.8x plus 0.7. So y is equal to minus 0.8x plus 0.7. Now this is the slope of the line. When we look at, so we get there m is equal to minus 0.8. So this is a slope is negative, and here the intercept is 0.7. So when you are defining an equation, a slope interval equation is written as y is equal to mx plus c. So let's look at the concept of intercept. Now let's say this is just drawn a line out here. So the intercept on the x-axis is a. So x-intercept let's look at an equation. Now 6x plus 2y is equal to minus 10. Now 2y is equal to minus 10 minus 6x. This can also be written as minus 6x minus 10. Or we get y as, we take y to the denominator, it becomes minus 6 by 2x minus 10 by 2. So y is equal to minus 3x minus 5. Now this takes the form of y is equal to mx plus c. So we get m is equal to minus 3, which is nothing but the slope, and the intercept is given as c is equal to 5. Now let's try to plot it, and we'll have a very good understanding. Always good to get the endpoints of the two equations. So you always start by keeping either x first as 0. If I put x as 0, I see y is equal to minus 5. So y is equal to minus 3 into 0 minus 5 is nothing but minus 5. So I get one coordinates. Now I'm going to put y as 0. So if I put y as 0, we get the equation 0 is equal to minus 3x minus 5. I could also take this out here. It becomes 3x is equal to minus 5, or x is equal to minus 5 by 3. Now we have 2 points, and we can draw and then we can check on with 2 points. Now let's take another. So we got the 2 endpoints. Now let's take y as 1, x as 1. So in this equation, if I put x is equal to minus 3 into 1, which is what I'm substituting, minus 5. It is nothing but minus 3 minus 5 is equal to minus 8. Now let me put x as 2. It becomes minus 3 into 2 minus 5. This minus is equal to minus 11. So now we have 4 points. We got the end points, and we are going to be looking at this equation. So let's understand. Now we are taking x as 0, y is minus 5. So if we are going to be plotting this is going to be somewhere out here. Let's say 0 minus 5, y axis we go to minus 5. We know x is minus 5 by 3 is somewhere out here. Let's say minus 5 by 3, and y is 0. Now x comes out here. Just to give you a fair example. Now it's not easy that for the line to to draw the line, but let's assume that it goes to these points. Now this endpoint, so this is the intercept, we say, with the y-axis, and this is with the this is with the x-axis, and this is with the y-axis. Just one of the two critical concepts here. When two lines are parallel, let's say L1 and L2, so slope of this line M1 is equal to M2. So this is a fair idea of how it is. Now when there are two non-vertical lines, so let's say L1 and M2, and they are perpendicular to each other, or they are crossing each other, let's say. So this is line L1 and this is line L2. We'll see M1 is equal to minus upon M2. So or this could be written as M1 into M2 is equal to minus 1.